responsibility for public sector enterprises. So let's begin with the definition about the social responsibility of business. An organization responsibilities always make to the decisions, policies, and procedures so that they can perform them for the welfare of the society and its value, which is actually known as the social responsibility of business. The responsibility is all about to perform their whole responsibilities or talk about the benefits or perform it very well towards the welfare of the society with its values. That exactly called social responsibility of business. Some of the social desirable practices is also being implemented in the business organizations, which are to be expected from the companies towards considering the factors like quality of goods and services, providing the goods at the fair or affordable prices, create a healthy environment, make a better working conditions in the organization, prevent the environment from the population pollution, and of course install the devices to control that pollution and always ensure that the customers complaints should be at the top priority for the business organization. However, the socially undesirable practices which should be avoided by the companies or the business organization, which is exactly related to the production and the sales of bad quality products, polluted environment. You can talk unfair trade practices. We can also consider in it, which sounds or which considered as a socially undesirable practices, which in within the organization, prevalent activities, etc. So this is the mainly concern over here is just to focus about the welfare of the society, about the benefit of the society along its values while creating and implementing the policies, the fair policies, the you can say fair procedures in the organization. It has always been assumed that social responsibilities, where the business would, I mean, will actually respect that responsibilities, its values, its vision, and of course the aspirations of the society, so that they can perform these aspirations, these responsibilities to achieve the business goals. It is a responsibility of the organization or the businesses that it should termed as a responsible member of the society and work towards the betterment of you can say for the society. So according to the critics, social responsibility practices has always been an opposite version of the business existence, and the social responsibility in business is also called as the corporate social responsibility. Let's take an example to understand this basic concept. A factory which is not disposing of its chemicals and the waste in the water bodies, improving the working hours, conditions of the employees, donating a part of the firm profits to the educational services for the poor children, and it also works for giving a scholarship or the grant to the talented students who are actually belong to the rural families or the poorer families. So the social responsibilities, whichever is performed by the companies, is only to help the society in other rural areas or urban areas, whichever is possible, and also helps the business to gain a positive environment, a positive reputation and image, and of course to build up its brand in the market. That is the actual the business goal of the businesses after thinking about for the betterment of the society, what would be the factors or the aspects that to be considered by the businesses just towards the betterment of society, and that gains a positive image and build the exact brand in the market for such organizations. So it also doing so, it also motivates the employees of the firms to work more and more harder and it is a motivational factor for the employees and for the associate members, and so that they can feel good to be a part of the organization which totally works for the society and the respected values as well. So this is how the organization follows a socially desirable practices, and by doing so, it build up a brand in the market, and ultimately the positive outcome, it's a positive, it create a positive environment for its employees, and accordingly it works for a more and more betterment for the society. So these are the examples of corporate companies who always strongly committed to the corporate social responsibility are IKEA, Bosch, Apple, Ben and Jerry, Starbucks, Marc Jacobs, Adidas. So it always focus and follows socially desirable practices which not harm to the environment, where the employees are totally committed towards its work for the betterment of the society. And if you look up the products of these companies, it's totally eco-friendly products, and which can be easily ease for its clients and customers, which is a polluted free environment that to be given to the societies. Now we can come up to the next important part, that is the need and importance for the social responsibility for a business. The first one is this changing expectations of society. In today's scenario, a lot of changes is always being exist in India as compared to the past years, and societies always expects the different things from the organizations rather than talking about or thinking about or pushing up about the supply of goods and services. So society, as a society, provides the companies with different resources like labor, natural resources, etc., and it always expects something in return, that to be given by such businesses for their welfare or the betterment of the society. Next one is reputation. Companies spend a lot of money to build up its brand in the market or in the society. So while doing so, the organization can also perform a socially responsible practices, which ultimately results into the profits or increase the sales and expansion of its growth and development, and build up a good image and reputation in the market itself. Next one is avoidance of government interference. Government is always evolve various laws and regulations, and always try to put a moral or the legal pressures on the companies so that they can perform its responsibilities while following up socially desirable practices. So if the company fails or avoids such laws or norm or legal practices, then ultimately the government will interfere into that business. So in order to avoid such interference by the government, the companies, and it's really needed to perform these social responsibilities for the welfare of the society. Next one is a long-term self-interest. So practicing the social desirable practices or the responsible practices is not only help to the society, but it is also consider a major, or you can say a beneficial point for the companies which going to be going to be you can say a road back into the long run. It also refers if the company has a positive image in the market and build up its brand in it, then of course it serves the society so well, besides earning a profit or increase the sales, etc. So automatically it built a positive image or a brand into a market that actually it would be a good for its self interest. Next one is a contribution to social problems. So businesses always creates most of the social problems like pollution, inequality, discrimination, unsafe environment or workplace. So it is for all those firms who created such problems. It is important, or it is important for such organization, or it is a duty and obligation for them to perform a socially desirable activities so that they can protect its own working environment and resolve the social problems and make the society more and more safe and secure. Next one is the better environment for business. So businesses uses natural resources for their daily activities of the businesses, and it always try to upgrade its environment, work environment in its own process. So the business organization is also need to avoid the environmental, you can say misleading activities or degradation activities which is caused by the organization. So while doing this, it's not only a benefit for the society, but it also gives a chance for the organizations to grow its own business in a healthy and a safe environment. Next one is growth of consumer. The consumer of the present scenario, it's more and more educated. They're more familiar with the terms, with their rights and powers as compared to the previous years. So they know what the business is engaged in an unfair trade practices or the fair trade practices which actually giving them a bad quality of product. They're charging unethical prices for the poor quality of products, and what measures they can take for the same premises. So the organization has a responsibility to work upon these, you can say, issues and to retain the existing customers. You can say and attract more and more while providing good quality of good quality of you can say products or services to them. Next one is the optimum utilization of resources. So one of the major objective of the business is to utilize the resources more and more effectively and efficiently. So while producing the goods and services to the customer, it could be done by the optimum utilization of resources. As you can know, as you know well, that the population of India is increasing year to year and the resources have become scarce. So we need to save that natural resources for the future generation as well. And the business organization has a responsibility to consider the measures or the remedies so that they can utilize the resources more and more optimum and work towards the social responsibility or work towards its social responsibilities. Now we can come on to the next part of this chapter, that is the types of social responsibilities of business. These are the four main social responsibilities of business. The first one is economic responsibility, second one is legal responsibility, fourth one is ethical responsibility, and the last one is discretionary responsibility. So let's have a small overview of these four types. The first one is economic responsibility. So in normal sense, economic responsibilities refers to produce the goods and services according to the needs and preferences of the customers. Or you can say the consumers, and the main, and in return while selling them they can earn some sort of profits. So earning profit is a major source of the business, and which ultimately increases the more and more incentives for the employees. So the economic growth of the country is totally affect the society as a whole. Next, we talk about the legal responsibility. So, it is a duty of the organization to legally abide by rules, laws, regulation while performing its business activities. So, automatically, the authorities will always come forwards to review the laws whether the organization is actually following the rules towards providing the goods and services to the society. And if they follow it, that means the organization is a socially responsible firm. So the legal responsibilities is always includes the paying taxes on time to the government, keeping its regular books of accounts, maintaining the financial statements on a yearly basis, and which term as clean and accurate in it. Next, we talk about the next type is the ethical responsibility. So it is a behavior expected from the business organization by the society. So it is not you can say refer a mindset or you can say of the society, or it is not a codified in the law as well. So there is no legal obligations that the companies has to perform its ethical, responsible activities. So the ethical responsibility is always beyond the laws. It always includes the fair trade practices. You can see accurate information is to be provided to its own customers or consumers, which always respect the religious sentiments of the people, maintaining the peaceful environment, protect the environment by the pollution. So it is all about called an ethical norms that the organization follows for the welfare of the society. So it also means that the business should not get involved into a black marketing, unfair trade practices, adulteration, any fraud and scam activities, etc. So these are called an illegal, you can say, or unethical practices that to be socially responsible by the organization. So it is a responsibility for the organization to follow fair trade practices. Following up the for the betterment or for following up this following up or considering the sentiments of the people. Next, we talk about the last type, that is discriminatory responsibility. So it is a philanthropic responsibility, and it's completely voluntary. Where the people, it's you don't need to pay anything to the organization, and it's all about the charitable services, the providing free educations to the poor children, helping the people which are affected by floods or the natural calamities, donated a fund or you can say to a poor people and provide and giving an assistance to such people towards the healthcare activities or the facilities who cannot afford the expenses of the hospitalization. So the management of the organization is totally responsible to avoid speculative activities in the society and just try to safeguard its own capital investments by following the healthy business ventures so that they can provide in return some return on investment. Now we can come up with the next important section, that is the social responsibility strategies. Social responsibility strategies are the significant part towards the company commitment so that they can they can portray a positive image to the society, and of course in protect the environment. So these strategies is always goes beyond the one-off initiatives, which follows a holistic approach. It's not only integrate the responsible practices in the core business operation, but also it protects from the unfair trade practices or the unfair or you can see the responsible activities. So let's explore some effective social responsibility strategies so that the business would always portray a positive image to the society. So the first one is the stakeholder engagement and collaboration. Of course, the business organization should always come forward to engage with all the stakeholders in order to understand their expectations, their issues, its needs or requirements, so that it would ensure that the social responsibility initiatives address the relevant issues and concern which are faced by the organization in the recent years. Next is under this particular point, that is the multiple stakeholder partnership. It is equally important to collaborate with the non-government organizations or the government organizations or any other businesses so that they can utilize the collective resources and the professional expertise services to portray a significant impact on its own business. Next one is the environmental sustainability. The first one is green initiative. So it is always a requirement for the business to implement the eco-friendly practices towards its products and services like the energy conservation, waste reduction, sustainability sourcing, so that they can minimize the company environment footprint. And it always follows a circular economy approach, a holistic approach where the companies adopt the circular economy principles, which always aims to reduce, reuse, or recycle the resources throughout the production and supply chain process. Next one is the employee well-being and diversity. So the first is employee empowerment. It always provides an inclusive and supportive workplace culture and environment, which always encourages its own employees' growth, development, and the work-life balance. Next is work diversity and inclusion. It promotes, the organization promotes the diversity at all the levels, which always values the employees' diverse background, experiences, and perspective. Next one is responsible supply chain management, supplier code of conduct. The organization has a social responsibility to implement the supplier code of conduct, which ensures the ethical, social, environmental responsibility throughout its supply chain process or production process. Next is supply chain audits. The company is responsible to conduct a regular audits to monitor, to assess any supplier compliance with responsible practices or not. Next one is the community development and philanthropy. So the community engagement. The organization has also a responsibility to engage with the social communities to identify its needs or requirement, and accordingly they would collaborate on initiatives which addresses the specific challenges and issues. Next is strategic philanthropy. The organization should should have invest in those projects where its company mission and values could meet up, and it also consider or take up an others business professional expertise services which always maximize the positive impact of philanthropic efforts. That means the fair trade practices and development. Next is transparency and reporting. So, as the corporate social responsibility reporting, it always plays a very significant role for the development and for the growth expansion of its own business. And in order to do so, it publish the comprehensive corporate social responsibility reports, a transparent communication about the company's social and environmental performances to its stakeholders so that they can build up the trust among them. Next is impact measurement. Implement robust matrices to measure the outcomes or effectiveness of the social responsibility initiative. It means it always measure the outcomes. What would be the outcome? Whether the effect, whether whatever the social practices the organization is following are actually effective, they are following up a socially responsibility initiative which ultimately creates a positive impact on its business or in the market. So this is how the measurement tools or measurement matrices is always used to evaluate the performances of its own activities, social responsible activities. Next is education and awareness. So employee education is always be a top priority for the organization. So it educate the employees about the importance, about the necessity of the social responsibility and what would be the role of such you can say term to increase the positive change for the society or in the society. Next is public awareness campaigns. So it's launched the public awareness campaigns to advocate for the social and the environmental causes. Next is a continuous environment. It's all about learning and adaptation. So learning is a process for a long-term process which organization is always continued to improve the social responsibility efforts. So automatically the organization takes the feedback and learn from its successes and the failures so that they can improve such practices and efforts. Next is setting goals and targets. It always establish the measurable and the time bound goals which regularly used to evaluate or to review the progress towards achieving that time bound goals. The next section is the social responsibilities towards the different interest groups. Business social responsibility is actually a voluntary effort for the businesses so that they can go forward to take a few steps to measure in order to satisfy the expectations of all these different interest group. It could be customer, it could be government, it could be investors, it could be any other group as well. So an interest group represent an association of individual or the organizations where the one or two groups share their perspective and opinions and they try to influence the public policy in their favor. So business is always concerned with different interest groups because every decision and action the company takes will directly or indirectly influence such interest groups who actually are part of the organization. So social responses. So the first one is honors. So the first interest group is honors. So what would be the social responsibility of business towards the honors? So these are the four main responsibility. So business owners are the persons who owns the business, and they are liable for all profits and losses, and owners take the responsibility to bear up the risk to run the business, how it would allocate the capital to for its operational activities, and such responsibilities which always works towards the owners to run the business efficiently, to allocate or utilize the capital and resources efficiently, to ensure the appreciation and the growth of its business capital, to provide a fair or a regular return on the capital that they invested on various projects. Next is investor. The next group is investor. So what would be the social responsibility of business towards the investor? So investors are those who provide the funds to business through various investment opportunities or the products or instruments like equity, bonds, debentures, etc. So there are various financial institutions, you can say housing loans facilities, you can retail investors who always comes under this category. So the following are the responsibility of the business towards their investments. Investors are to provide the required and the necessary information regarding the schemes of the future growth, to ensure the safety of the investor funds or investments, to provide a regular payment of interest to the investors, to give timely repayment of the principal amount to the investors. Next is suppliers. What would be the social responsibility of businesses towards the suppliers? So the suppliers are the businessmen or the merchants who supply the raw materials and other necessary items which is required by the manufacturers or the traders. So the supplier is also include a distributor who supply the final finished products to the consumers or the customers. So these are the responsibilities which are given below: to give a regular orders for the purchase of goods, to make a deal with fair terms and conditions, to avail a reasonable credit period, and to pay the dues on time. Social responsibility of business towards the consumer. So businesses is always produce and sell goods and services to its customers, and it cannot be survived without support of the customer, because after all the customers are the kings for its own businesses, and accordingly they have to fulfill their wants and needs in order to achieve the success. So these are the responsibilities towards their consumers, uh, to provide our customers with goods and services to fulfill their needs and requirements, to provide a more suitable or quality goods and services to them, to maintain a regular flow of goods and services in the market, and to provide the customers with goods and services at a reasonable and affordable prices. It also more responsibilities of towards the consumers. It also to provide them with proper after sales services for the purchase goods and services. It also provides the consumers with every essential information, including the warning regarding the use of the goods and services or regarding such goods and services. It also provides them a manual for the use of goods and services. It follow a proper and a fair trade practices, and of course take a remedy actions against unfair trade practices. It also ensures that the grievances of the customers are listened and resolved on a timely basis. Now we talk about the employees. What would be the social responsibilities of the businesses towards the employees? So it to provide the employees and workers with timely and regular salaries and wages. It also provide a peaceful environment in the workplace to provide the employees with better career opportunities and prospects. It also provides the employees with job security and the social securities benefits like provident fund, health insurance, retirement benefits, etc. It also provides them with proper training for their career development and growth, to respect their democratic rights in the formation of unions. Social responsibility of businesses towards the society or community, to maintain a balance between the economy and the ecosystem, to generate the employment opportunities for the people, to protect the environment by conserving the natural resources and wildlife, to promote sports and culture, to help the weaker section of the society, to preserve the social and cultural values of the society, and of course to promote their values in the society, to provide you can say proper assistance in education, healthcare facilities, career development of the society. Social responsibility of business towards government. So businesses are governed by certain rules and regulation which was set up and formulated by the government. And such rules and regulation also helps the business to perform their responsibilities towards society. So these are the few responsibilities of business towards the government: to pay fees, duties, taxes honestly and regularly, to set up a new business unit as per the guidelines set up by the government, to follow the pollution control norms which was set up by the government, especially when we talk about the industries, to run the business fairly and not indulge in any corruptive and unfair practices. Next important part is social audit. A social audit is an overall evaluation of the organization, working procedures, code of conduct, and its impact on its business operation towards the social welfare. It also measures the extent to which an organization live up to the social objective, or to the achievement of the social objectives that it claims to uphold in the future. What would be the history of the social audit? It begins with the root of the mid 20th century, and back it followed a theoretical approach, which means an idea for scrutinizing the government agencies. The major goal of such audit is to assess the extent to which they are actually achieving their stated social objectives or not. So by the 1970, this theory is or it follows a corporate structure approach, and the business begin to realize the importance of evaluating the social impact on the society. So initially, it was employed by a socially conscious businesses, and the social auditing is now become a major practice worldwide. So through the 1970, when they realized the importance of evaluating that what would be the social impact in this from this concept, the social auditing has now become a common practice worldwide, and it is often mandated by the law. So the rising concern over the corporate sustainability, social responsibility, ethical consumerism is fueled towards the development of its concept, of this concept. So these are the features of the social audit: the social responsibility assessment, stakeholder engagement, transparency and accountability, compliance with regulation, impact assessment, ethical business conduct, and continuous involvement. So let's have an overview of all these features of the same. Social responsibility assessment. So the social audit is it's mainly involved to evaluate the organizational fulfillment of the social responsibilities and goals. It also includes a careful examination of the environmental sustainability initiative and whether the organization followed the ethical business practices, the extent of the community engagement. So this is the parameters that the organization use social audit tools to measure these aspects. Next one is stakeholder engagement. It plays a significant role, you can say, which involves engaging the various stakeholders like employees, customers, local communities, and the non-government organizations. So gathering a diverse perspective, it always helps to understand the organizational social impact. Next one is transparency and accountability. So the social audits should focus about the transparency which requires the organization to openly communicate about its social performance. This transparency it always extend to acknowledge and ready to take the responsibility for any negative impact which was resulted from its own operational activities. Next is compliance with regulations. So, a critical fact of the social audit is the assessment of the organizational compliance with the relevant laws, regulations, and industry standards, which automatically pertains to social and ethical practices. Next is impact assessment. Social audit aims to qualify the actual social impact of the organizational activities, and it also aims to evaluate both negative and the positive consequences on stakeholders and the community. Next is ethical business conduct. It refers to the evaluation of the ethical or the socially responsible practices which always portray a treatment of the employees, ethical sourcing, and the responsible marketing strategy. Then the next one is continuous environment. Social audits serve as a tool for organizations to identify those areas of concern where the improvement is actually needed in their socially responsibility practices. So it facilitates the implementation of the changes over the time, and it also ensures a commitment towards the continuous improvement. Now we can talk about the social audit in India. So in India, the TISCO was the first company to set up the social audit committee to conduct a social audit of its own work under the chairmanship of Justice S.P. Kotwal and the Professor Rajni Kothari and the Professor M.G. Malvlagar as members. So these committees always it's conducted to perform its task to examine and reporting whether or to what extent the DISCO has fulfilled or not the objectives which was contained in clause 3A of its article of association regarding its social and moral responsibility towards the consumers, employees, stakeholders, community, etc. So the community has opinion that on the examination of all these aspects, the company has fulfilled its obligation to all the concerned members of the company. In India, the companies in journal or the public sector enterprises, in particular, it always should have to disclose the information for the use of the people who reside or work outside the organization or the public enterprises. So these are the financial institutions and creditors who are interested in knowing of the financial position, fund flow, cash flow statement, and the debt paying capacity of the organization. Next one is shareholders, academic institution, and consultants who are interested in qualitative and the quantitative information, that means in numbers and in you can say research based information regarding the proper utilization of resources which is transferred to the concerned authority. The next one is the government, to knowing about the financial and the statistical information for the planning and operating these enterprises, and of course initiate and administer the financial and economic policies and programs at both levels, state and national. The next one is trade unions and political leaders. It always requires the information for the broad labor policy decisions, etc. Next is environment, who need information regarding the air, water, and noise, ecological imbalance, and the depletion of resources and the conservation of energy. Next is global guidance to promote the corporate social responsibility practices. So the first one is United Nations Global Compact, that we call UNGC. There are 10 principles, and such United Nations Global Compact outlines the universal accepted principles which covers the human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption, encouraging the business to adopt such responsible principles in these areas. Next is sustainable development goals, as the committee is also aligns the corporate social responsibility efforts with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals and urge the business to contribute to global sustainable development targets. Next one is ICO 26000, the guidance on social responsibility. That is a comprehensive guidance. So the ISO to 26000 provides the businesses with a comprehensive guidance on integrate the social responsibility throughout the organization. And what would be the core subjects considered in this particular ISO International Standard Organization 26000, and it covers the various subjects like organizational governance, human rights, labor practices, environment, fair operating practices, consumer issues, and community involvement. The next one is the Global Reporting Initiative, that is GRA. GRA is also offers the various guidelines for reporting on a sustainable issues, encourage the companies to disclose their social, environment, and the economic information which involves the transparency. Next one is materiality assessment. So GRI is always focused on the importance of conducting the materiality assessments to identify and report on all those corporate social responsibility issues for each or every company. Next is OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises. So the first point under this section, for under this main point, is a responsible business conduct. The OECD guidelines promote the responsible business conduct, or A, for multinational corporations, including all those areas which that refers to human rights, employment, environment, and anti-corruption areas. National contact points. The guidelines is also include the complaint mechanism process through the national contact points, allowing the stakeholders to raise their concern and issues about the company adherence to the guidelines. Next is United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and the Human Rights. So the first one is protect, respect, and remedy. So the United Nations Guiding Principles is always points out the framework of the state duty to protect the human rights, business responsibility to respect the human right, and access to effective remedies if any human rights violation exists in the state. Next one is human rights due diligence. The principles advocate for human rights due diligence to identify the areas where the improvement has to be, you can say, improvement has to be possible, prevent and mitigate the potential adverse human rights which impact the actual business operations of the company. And the last one is Sustainable Development Goals, that is 2030 Agenda. The Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the United States member states in 2015. It provides a global blueprint for peace and prosperity, which urge the business to align their strategies with these goals. Private sector engagement, so businesses are called to actively contribute to achieve such goals through its products, services, and the responsible practices that they follow for its products in the market. Next one is the guidelines on corporate social responsibility for CPO, that is Central Public Sector Enterprises 2010. So the 2010 guidelines on corporate social responsibility for central public sector enterprises, it always aims to how to allocate the budgets for the corporate social responsibility initiative as a percentage of their net profit from the previous year. How the public sector enterprises share a small portion of their net profits from the previous year, and these guidelines portray that major point to contribute a percentage of their net profit from the previous year. So these guidelines specify the different expenditure ranges based on the central public sector enterprises profit. 3 to 5% for profits less than 100 crores. 2 to 3% minimum of rupees 3 crores for profits between 100 crores to 500 crores, and 0.5 to 2% for profit exceeding 500 crores. So these are the percentage which has been you can say implemented in the guidelines, that if any of the company has earned this profit, then they have to contribute its percentage of their net profit like 3 to 5%, 2 to 3%, 0.5 to 2%. This is how the enterprises has to contribute. Key aspects of the 2010 guidelines is mandatory budget creation. It is mandatory for the central public sector enterprises to create a corporate social responsibility budget through the board resolution. Next is expenditure ranges. The guidelines always defines the specific percentage of net profit for corporate social responsibility expenditure, which has been detailed above in the earlier slides. The guidelines which has been shown the allocation of the percentage of the profits according to their profits on. Unspent amount, any unspent amount corporate social responsibility funds are transferred to the corporate social responsibility fund and it do not lapse at all. Loss making central public sector enterprises, So the organization who are facing the loss, they are not mandated to allocate the specific funds for corporate social responsibility initiatives. Alignment with government initiatives. So the central public sector enterprises should align with corporate social responsibility initiative and also with the initiative of the central, state, and local government as well as the other agencies. Project evaluation. Such enterprises are required to submit the details of its corporate social responsibility projects for the overall evaluation under the memorandum of understanding with the administrative ministry. Sustainable reporting, sustainability reporting, and such enterprises always encouraged to prepare an annual sustainability report in order to ensure the transparency and accountability among the stakeholders. Next one is impact assessment. Impact assessment studies are always being conducted by the external agencies, which are to be recommended for the corporate social responsibility initiative, especially for the major or bigger projects. Next one is monitoring and the evaluation. So the administrative ministry and department is responsible to monitor and implement the corporate social responsibility activity and independently evaluated by the external agencies, which is recommended for the organizations. Next one is Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. Such enterprises may appoint a such committee for like the Social Audit Committee or use an independent external agency for monitoring the corporate social responsibility activities or initiatives. Revision. Now there is a revision of guidelines on the corporate social responsibility for the central public sector enterprises 2010. The Department of Public Enterprises issued a revised guidelines on the corporate social responsibility for such enterprises in 2010, which was further revised in 2013 and 2014. And these guidelines would outline the framework for the central public enterprises to integrate or to collaborate the social and environmental concern into their business operation and of course it contribute to the sustainable development goals and apply such goals into their corporate social responsibility practices. So these are the key aspects of 2010 guidelines revised in 2013 and 2014. Integrate with business. These guidelines which focus on the corporate social responsibility initiative, it should also link to the business activities of enterprises. Budget allocation. Centrally public sector enterprises are also required to allocate a specific percentage of their net profit to you can say corporate social responsibility activities, and with the amount it varies based on the level of profitability earned by the businesses or undertakings or the enterprises. Project selection. The guidelines should also specify that the projects should also address the social and environmental concerns, preferably in areas which are related to the centrally public sector enterprises business, whether whether they are protecting the environment to that nearby areas, whether they are actually working in a peaceful or workable condition in that area. So this is something the guidelines which always specify that choose those projects which are mainly refer or addresses the concern related to the social and environmental you can say aspects. Next and the last one is implementation. Centrally, public sector enterprises are encouraged to implement such projects which relate to the corporate social responsibility through the specialized agencies rather than relying wholly on its own staff. So it is very important, which is revised in 2013 to 4 and 2014, that implement the corporate social responsibility projects through the specialized agencies, which always aims to work, you can say, to work towards the achievement of sustainable development goals and apply such goals into their socially responsible practices. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening this lecture. I will come up with more and more interesting, relevant, and important topics in the upcoming session. So till time, thank you and namaste to all.